Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of AWS Tech Tales. I'm your host, Matt Burke.
And I am your co-host, Savanna. Welcome back, everyone.
Everyone, welcome back. Tech Tales is the show where we talk about real-life customer issues, what you can do to solve them. Today on the show, we are doing a very fun collaboration with another show on the channel, which is Keys to AWS Optimization. Hey, Arietics, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Nice seeing you.
So this will be a nice little change of pace since we've been spending a lot of time diving into Q Developer, UCLI. We've been doing a lot of AI stuff recently, and now we're kind of taking a step back and we're going. I wouldn't say back to basics, but back to a topic that is, I think, near and dear to both your heart and my heart, Azmar, which is savings plan and reservation allocations.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like that's one of the topics that us as TAMs, Matt and I touch upon a lot with our customers. There is always something to deep dive and answer questions about. And so I'm excited to have a show dedicated to that today.
Yeah, so let us know in the chat if you ever dealt with buying a reserved instance or a savings plan. You've ever been part of those conversations? Is it just something that's theoretical to you that you've studied for in an AWS cert and you've never actually hit the button? Are you interested in finance, in spreadsheets? This might be the show for you. Let us know in the chat.
Yeah, that's true. Or sometimes you kind of hear about it, like, kind of when you're dealing with your team's budget and what's going to be allocated. Sometimes those discussions come up because obviously, as you do project planning and things, you always kind of do like the best and optimized way to do things, right? So I think people might have heard it more than once.
Yeah, I hope so. And speaking of heard it more than once, we've been saying in the past few weeks on the channel that we haven't had a dedicated page anymore. This is not a very slick transition. And I wanted to share that we do have a new page out there for folks that have not seen the show or haven't been in a while, trying to wonder where all the episodes are at. We have a new home on the Builder Center website. So if you've got an AWS Builder ID, which I hope you do, then you can go and you can post your own articles. You can like these articles. And we have a new show page. So it looks pretty familiar if you've ever seen our community.aws page. And it'll have our upcoming schedule. You can see today's episode here. I got to go and fill in the rest of these blanks later today from what we're going to be speaking on the next couple of weeks. But you can check out all of our old episodes here, along with the show notes, with the link to the recordings. Now, there are some comments out there. Some of these don't have links to the recordings anymore. We will fix that, hopefully. But anything that's recent in this year in 2025, they are on the site. And there's a couple more show notes that I need to add. But we are back in business. So I'm going to leave this link here. And then hopefully we're going to get a nice little redirect from the old page to the new page.
Nice. Awesome.
So let me drop that into chat and you can keep on trucking. So now that that's out of the way, anything else that we want to touch base with our viewers before we bring in our guest?
Oh, I don't think so. I think we're ready. Let's go for it.
Okay. Well, then I will wipe away my screen and I'll bring on our new guest, who is the co-host of the amazing Keys to AWS Optimization Twitch show and YouTube show, Savanna, and we will bring her right on here in. I have to find my special. There you go. Savanna, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited to be here. I think it's going to be super fun to talk about some FinOps related topics today, which I know is everybody's favorite.
And I know that Max just mentioned that you have your own show in Twitch and in YouTube, but just for those viewers that are seeing you for the first time, would you care to introduce yourself and just kind of share a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Savanna Jensen. I am a senior FinOps commercial architect on the optics team here at AWS, and I am one of the co-hosts of the Keys to AWS Optimization Twitch show. It is Thursday mornings bright and early at 8 a.m. Pacific for me. My co-host Stephanie Gooch, who I think is a pretty big name in the FinOps space at this point, started it a couple of years ago, and she's based in London, so it's at the end of her day. We try to have that like global reach so we can kind of talk to folks no matter what point in the day they are. But we deep dive on everything FinOps, whether it is optimization, cost management. We try to have a lot of our product manager friends come on as well and talk about some of the new releases that we have in the AWS ecosystem on some of these products, and try to get some customer stories in as well. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but it's all about the dollar signs on AWS, basically.
So we have someone else in the chat saying hello. Hi. I don't even want to try to pronounce this one. Little J33P. So I've been a big fan of the show. I've been on there a long time ago. I'm going to be coming on there this week. So if folks want to still say hi to me on Thursday, I'm going to be talking about some new pricing calculator stuff on the show. And we try to stay I try to stay clear of all the FinOpsy stuff to give you some space over there. And that's why it's kind of fun to talk about some of these topics and have you on the show.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I think like a big thing that everybody really wants to help foster is that cost aware culture. So even if your bread and butter as an engineer isn't thinking about those costs day to day, as if you can stay conscious of them and kind of think about some of those kind of topics that your FinOps folks are working on, that really helps everybody have a more efficient and optimized AWS architecture in my experience. So
no, and I feel like the majority of the time when we're doing different architectures and how to fix something or add something or explore something new, we always get those questions about like, what's the cost and how we can do this better. So I feel like it, in any space, you're always conscious of what the dollar sign is going to be.
Oh, totally. And I think if you want more details on how you can scope some of that out, be sure to tune in to Keys to Optimization on Thursday, and Matt can show us all about the new pricing tools that we've got to help you with those questions.
Or you can search the show on YouTube. They've got tons of prior episodes, including some like quick hits that are there too. Savanna you've got some really good content there that are like sub 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yep. We're trying to do more short form this year. So.
Oh, nice.
So I think to get to our topic of today, I think one of the first things that customers start to do when they're looking for savings is try to find some of the easy buttons. And sometimes making a commitment can be an easy button, depending on which side of the journey that you're on. So talk to us a little bit about what the savings plans are, what are these committed pricing models, why are customers using them, and then we can get into the more enterprise level allocation side of things.
Totally. Absolutely. So I do have kind of a screen pulled up that we can walk through a little bit of the how you would purchase one of these kind of commitments. But before I get into that, if you haven't heard of savings plans or reserved instances, they are AWS's essentially commitment-based discounts. They are a public concept. Anybody with an AWS account can go and purchase them through the console at any point, provided that they have the right permissions to do so. And essentially what they are is a way of exchanging a commitment for lower cost. You're telling AWS what you're going to be using and where you're going to be using it for either 1 year or 3 years. And in exchange, that helps us on the kind of AWS side capacity plan and understand what that footprint is going to look like longer term. So we can give you that usage at a discounted rate. There are a couple different products in kind of the RI and savings plan family. We will be really looking at compute savings plans, which are the most flexible commitment-based discount product, and as the name would imply, specific to compute today, and RDS reservations as well.
So we're getting a lot of actual questions on reserved instances.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So I'll take this quick hit from Sammy, which says, are there certain EC2 family that aren't eligible for reserved instances? You'd have to check in terms of which ones, it's different by even individual instance type it could be. So you'd have to double check. But in general, you'll find that savings plan just covers usage. So if you're just committing to $1, that'll apply to pretty much any EC2 instance that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll do a quick like pivot on the screen share. You guys can drop this in the chat too. But what I always recommend folks do when they've got questions.
And I'll put it on the screen too as well.
Oh, amazing. Is check our public pricing pages. Our public pricing pages obviously have a lot of variety because our services have a lot of variety. I may be biased because I work with compute savings plans all the time, but I really love our CSP and honestly our RI pricing page as well. And whenever I'm doing a sanity check on what's available where, or trying to understand like what the discount margin on a specific offering is, this is the first place I go. And when we kind of scroll down here, you'll see we've got the full menu. I'll leave it on compute for now, but you can go through here, select your region, your location type, your term length, your no upfront, all upfront, partial upfront, all of the kind of specs that go into creating one of these things. And it will show you all of the instances available here. So if I want to look at maybe a good old M5, it'll show you flat out like what the savings plan rate is, the savings over on-demand rate, etc. And you can toggle these as well to watch all of these fields change. So if you have any questions on kind of what's available where, I always recommend just going to the public pricing page. That is a really good, I think, UI and a really nice way to pull this data. You can also use pricing calculator or the pricing API, but just for a quick gut check, absolutely keep that pricing page in mind.
Or even the pricing MCP server. Soon enough, people are just going to ask those questions, they just get it back and then move on with your day.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have another question from A Fuego. This is a big, I'm going to put this comment on the screen and we're all going to go really small. Be big, yes. I currently hold a reserved instance. My workload requirements have increased and I need to migrate to a larger EC2 instance type midterm. Can you please clarify what options are available? For example, am I able to modify or exchange my existing RI? Or would I be able to purchase a new one or consider selling the current RI? This is a big question. Yeah,
right on. It's a big question with a lot of caveats in the answer as well, but I'll do my best to give you like a short version of all of them. My first recommendation, as always, take a look at what that RI is covering. Some of these offerings are size flexible. EC2 and RDS do have size flexibility for some of the operating systems there. So definitely do a quick look through the documentation and compare essentially what you have to what you want to cover and see if it will just automatically size flex to cover that upsize. The other thing that you can consider is if you ever have questions about essentially size flexibility or the options there, or if you would like to step up or change families, I would highly recommend reaching out to either your technical account manager if you have one, or creating a case through Support Center and starting to talk to our support team about what is available there. We can't give you kind of a blanket recommendation of what the best path forward here is on the show, but folks in our support teams can go over those options with you and come up with essentially a game plan that works for you. The other kind of thing that I do want to mention is if you are running into a scenario where those RIs are not flexible enough for you and you are sitting in that EC2 space, definitely check out a compute savings plan. That's the same kind of product that I've got on the screen here, and we'll walk through essentially how to scope these out and purchase just momentarily. Compute savings plans apply to any EC2 usage throughout the entire world, regardless of instance family or region. You just commit to $1 per hour figure, so they will flex and change with you as you move through your migration, modernization, kind of EC2 journey in general.
And if Fuego says, awesome, thank you. Next time I will do computing saving plan.
Awesome. Did I cover it all, guys? I feel like
I think so.
You're doing
just info dumps for like 2 minutes. Awesome. Any other questions in the chat, or should we?
No, that's it.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So perfect segue into let's look at what a compute savings plan looks like and what tools we've got available to folks who may be doing this for the first time. So I'm going to jump into the billing and cost management console. I think this is likely familiar to you guys, exceedingly familiar to me. This is where I live most of my life. But we'll go through a quick walkthrough of essentially some of the tools that are available to you to scope out whether or not there are kind of usage pieces that you can cover with one of these things. So the savings plan option lives in this left-hand menu towards the bottom under our savings and commitment section. You might be familiar with Cost Optimization Hub. That's going to be a recommendations aggregator for everything cost optimization related. But let's go ahead and pop into our savings plan purchase analyzer, which is one of our newer tools. We do have a recommendations interface as well that will survey kind of the entire organization. But based on what I know about your guys' audience, I'm going to start with Purchase Analyzer since it's a little bit more, I would say, applicable to folks who are just starting out, trying to understand these products for the first time, or if they're managing based on their own linked account. So as soon as I jump in here, you will see the entire menu of what we have to offer within kind of the savings plan space. There's compute savings plans. That is the offering that I mentioned earlier. So that applies to kind of any EC2 anywhere. It also covers Fargate and Lambda. These are global, which is a huge pro if you don't know what region mix you're going to have a year from now or 3 years from now. And the way that they apply is actually engineered to save you the most money. So if you think back to that pricing page that I was looking at where we saw essentially the rate and then the percentage off and the OD cost, how these products work is they take a look at that percentage off and they stack it up on highest margin to lowest margin. So they will apply from that highest discount percentage all the way down until you're either out of usage or you're out of savings plan. That is obviously very customer obsessed and will make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck out of those reservations that you have. I think that is why I see customers get really excited about savings plans, especially if they're not sure exactly what their instance and region mix is going to be over the next like month, year, etc.
But what I warn customers about that specifically is with your first purchase, you're going to look like a rock star. You're going to be saving so much money. You're going to be like, wow, why didn't we do this before? And then you buy more. And then you get less savings. Then you buy more and you get even less savings. They're like, why is this happening? And then they get upset. And then I like, that's just part of the ride. You're getting the best coverage for the best bang for your buck. So the first taste is always going to be the best.
Yep. No, 100%. I do see some questions about that if they have really fluctuating usage month over month as well. Mm-hmm. So if you have like a peak season where everything scales up for 2 months, you might see a much higher savings amount than expected if you're kind of spinning up those instances that have the high savings margin. And that absolutely ties into some of the cost allocation questions that we will kind of get into when we're a little bit farther along in the walkthrough too, because that's a common question that we get as well.
And we always have our customers paying attention to that utilization graph of how they did the month before based on like the different, reservations that they have.
Yep, sure do, which is good. I want them to be looking at that stuff. Cost to our culture. Awesome. We also have EC2 instant savings plans. These have a little bit more specificity. So think committing on a region and family basis. In exchange for that specificity, you get a little additional discount. Depending on what your workload looks like, that could be a great choice for you. If you're a little bit less sure about what the future looks like, I always recommend at least starting with a compute savings plan until you have more of an idea. And then you can always add in some of those instant savings plans as well. And we've got SageMaker savings plans as well. I'm going to follow the path with a compute savings plan today, and I will toggle to a no upfront option. We'll do 1 year. I can set my look back period. I'll leave it at 7 days here. And then if I want to exclude any of the expiring ones, I can do that here as well. And then I can either do the kind of AWS recommended maximum savings commitment, or I can enter a custom commitment. If you're doing this for the first time, I would say do the recommended commit just to get a gut check of how much headroom you have. And then what I usually see folks do after that is use the custom commit to walk through some like what if scenarios and figure out where you're comfortable starting with, what looks best for you and what your finance team is comfortable with you starting with, if that is applicable to you. So I'll just do a custom one, and I'll do like $1 for now because I've got a small account. As soon as I click,
think it's down to like cents, right?
I think it's 5 decimal places.
Yeah, so you can, so like if folks are like, I don't need a savings plan, it's not for me, I've got a couple T2 micros out there, you could commit to them in a savings plan. The hours rack up in a year.
The other thing to think about too is if you have never purchased one before and you're a little bit nervous about how it's going to look with your usage, or you're not familiar with kind of how it's going to look in your bill, I always recommend just start with a really small one. That could be $1, like I've modeled here, could be a cent, could be 1/10 of a cent. But that at least gives you an idea of how this stuff is going to show up. It'll let you show some of that kind of savings value if you're in a position where you have to essentially like report up. You'll get a feel for how that all looks in the reporting before you kind of move a little bit farther down that journey too.
I'm going to say something that's probably too in the weeds, but you made me think of it, which is if you're trying to do these, the reason why this analyzer is super helpful is if you're trying to do these calculations yourself, what customers, again, it's not because it's trying to be complicated or anything, but the common miss is like you're estimating, let's say that you're spending $1 an hour on an instance. If you commit $1 an hour in your savings plans, you're actually overcommitting. So that's another thing to call out for new folks.
Yep. Let me pop back to the pricing page for just a second. So we talked a little bit about this percentage stack. First of all, if you're scoping this out over like an entire account, you have to make sure that you're taking into account every single discount percentage of every instance there. So that is definitely a little bit of legwork to do depending on how large your instance mix is. But as Matt mentioned as well, we commit at that savings plan rate, not at the on-demand rate. So if I wanted to cover one single M5 large in US East Ohio with the specs that I have here, I would commit this much through that purchase workflow. I would not commit the on-demand rate. So really easy to think about when you're just looking at one M5 large. If you've got 1,000 of these things in there and it's all mixed across regions and instances, that gets a little bit harder to wrap your brain around, which is why AWS has really built some robust tools to help you guys with this analysis.
We just have a quick, hey guys,
Hi.
Hey.
Welcome to the show. If you've got any questions, that's what we're here for.
In the chat.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let me show you the output of this tool real quick. So I've plugged in my $1 an hour. I get this graph out that essentially shows me what my current savings plan commitment is. So currently I've got a $1 an hour savings plan in this account already. That's the green. It'll show that custom savings plan that I just added, and then it shows these on-demand costs as well. So very simple, very small toy example here, but you can kind of start to feel out what this is going to look like for you and your business if you have recurring usage patterns like I do here, or if you just want to build an understanding of what that savings plan step is going to look like. If we pop to coverage as well, you can kind of look out at that possible coverage, what it's projecting, and we can take a peek at that utilization. So in this case, we see that extra $1 an hour would touch 100%, and then kind of be slightly underutilized because of those peaks and valleys that I have. So you can run a number of these estimates and figure out essentially like what your usage patterns look like, settle on a commit amount that's right for you. And then as soon as you're feeling positively about one of those things, you can purchase right from this screen, but it looks like I do not have the permissions to in this account right now. So
we're really hoping before we went live that we could just start buying a bunch of these live.
So sometimes we have customers that really want to kind of have like an idea of like whenever they're picking and choosing how to stack multiple reservations when it comes to compute savings plans, right? They want to get as up there as possible when it comes to coverage.
Yep.
Is there kind of like a percentage space that we recommend that they stay upon? Everybody wants to thrive to be that 100%, right? So what do we normally say to that?
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's no like one golden ticket for a coverage amount that I would recommend. It really does depend a lot on a customer's workloads, what they're doing on AWS, and what kind of the next 12 to 36 months looks like for them. So we do have customers that are kind of hyper seasonal and maybe have one launch a year where they have a very peak of EC2 consumption and then it drops back down. That's something to factor into any purchase decisions, because if you've got a peak, it might make a lot of sense to be essentially like undercovered during that peak and then run at almost 100% coverage for the rest of the year. If you're migrating onto AWS for the first time, maybe it makes sense to be very high coverage as that kind of continues, because you know that there's more workload coming on that you're going to have to continue upscaling. The reverse is also true, right? If you are going through a large serverless migration or refactoring the architecture that is kind of underlying your product, right, you might want to be a little bit less covered because you don't know exactly where that's going to shake down to after all that work is done. So I always encourage people to really take a holistic look at their business and what they expect before they start shooting for any particular coverage target, because we do have a lot of tools to help you out. We've got a lot of kind of very smart logic behind the scenes here and good AWS resources to help you as well. But no tool within the console can kind of project with their crystal ball like what's going on in your business and how to roll that into a strategy.
Yeah, and that's kind of tying back to like what we said before, right? There's always those conversations in the projections of what we're doing next year, what we're doing in the next 6 months, and all of that goes into account whenever you're planning, right? What's coming up next and how you should move forward.
Exactly. So engineers out there, when your FinOps and governance folks are asking you at the end of this year what you've got planned for 2026, it's coming from a good place. We want to save you money. We want to make sure that you guys are taking advantage of this stuff and that we're helping you as much as you can be.
So I've been, this is so silly, but I've been looking at that peak and thinking, what does that look like to me? And to me, it looks like when you're playing air hockey.
Yeah.
Like,
the little handle?
Yeah, that's what that looks like to me.
What is the alien game? Space Invaders? The little like...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Let us know in the chat what you think the estimated on-demand cost looks like.
What is that Olympic game that it kind of looks like,
curling?
Yeah, that one. That's kind of what it looks like.
Yes, it does.
Yes, absolutely.
Now I kind of want to have a demo account where I just create patterns in the graphs. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah, we gotta get stuff to put together a demo account with some funky patterns in there that we can look at.
This is the silliest use of AWS resources.
Hey, gotta keep it fresh, man.
Okay,
so I know that.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say I know that we can see, like, for example, in here, if you were actually to go ahead, you can go ahead and then just go and purchase this recommendation, right? Yep. I did see something. I think I saw that you can also download this as a spreadsheet. Yes. Like, let's say you got to take this back. I would assume to like your team and discuss further. Yep. You have that option as well.
Yep. And what I see folks do as they've started using this tool is basically, as I mentioned before, generate the high water estimate that's going to save you the most money, and then generate a couple what if steps as well, and include that cost coverage utilization data to kind of talk through some of the options, right? Those realities of your business and kind of what's happening month over month, year over year are going to dictate which option is the right one. But the power of this tool is it lets you run these simulations so that you can really look at, with a lot of granularity and a lot of awareness about what's going on in your accounts currently, what that could look like at different thresholds or like different water lines, basically.
And so we have a question from Schizophrenic Web Developer. I like this question. Will saving costs affect performance?
Wait, can you read that again?
Oh yeah, will saving costs affect performance?
Oh, okay. Not with any of the products that we are showing today, and ideally it shouldn't. So savings plans and reserved instances are both a billing concept, and they are just a billing concept. So
Just
they
a
don't.
coupon.
Yep, just a coupon. It doesn't impact anything that you have running. It is essentially a step in our billing pipeline where we take a look at what that usage looks like, and then we say, okay, let's put the rates on top of it. They've got a coupon for the specific thing that they've purchased, so we will decrement that rate and continue computing that bill. So no impact on any of the technical stuff going on here with either a savings plan or an RI. It's just an adjustment in what that stuff costs. So it will not affect performance. Good question. Good question. So, do we want to walk through the RDS RI purchase experience really quickly, and then we can kind of pivot to talking about what these look in the cost perspective and how you guys and I have seen customers handle some of this allocation, or anything else I want to handle here before we move on?
No, oh, yeah, go ahead. We can move on, and then if folks in the chat have something specific that they want to see, let us know.
Right on. All right. So very similar experience within kind of the recommendations tooling here, except for a little bit less kind of what if projecting for some of these other services. We do have a reservations option down here that's got recommendations. I will say I don't have any RDS usage in this account, so it's not exciting enough for me to really pull it up and show you any graphs. I will, however, pop over to essentially the RDS console for a second and show you where you can find these reservation options if you do want to purchase them. They are right here under reserved instances.
Wait, I didn't realize that Aurora now has top billing in the console. I like that.
Yep. Little bit more information there once you go into that services wizard rather. Within kind of the RI purchase workflow, and this is going to be very similar for all of the services that we offer RIs for. RDS, OpenSearch, and Elasticache are the most common. We also have DynamoDB and kind of some miscellaneous, but mostly I see folks doing RDS, Elasticache, and OpenSearch right now. Click that big orange purchase button, and then again, it will guide you through all of the flavors that you get to select in order to tell us exactly what you want to commit to. Again, if you're comparing pricing or if you want to see what's available, highly recommend the pricing pages for these as well. I will say these offerings are structured with a little bit more specificity than we saw for the compute savings plan. So we usually need a little bit more understanding of region, instance family, and what you're going to be running either for the next year or 3 years. And
then you have to match this directly, right? You have to make sure, and you're also not, I guess you're not purchasing. This is just purchasing the coupon again, right?
Correct. Yes. It's purchasing the coupon. No technical impact. We're just essentially making sure that we've got a coupon for what we're running so that we can run it at that decreased rate.
See, I didn't read because it literally says it in the
Not a worry, man. I have done that more times than I can count, especially with some of the info boxes on the screens that I'm always navigating to. I like forget that I can click the I. And I'm like, oh, it's actually a good explanation. Thanks, AWS console. You can also always ask Q about this stuff too. That's another really good resource. I will say our billing teams on the product side have added a lot of support within Amazon Q for billing that will kind of be cost aware and have more information about what's currently going on in your account. So if you do have questions about any of this, highly recommend kind of using that resource, even if it's just a link out to documentation. It makes that kind of like digging process a little bit easier. And Matt, I know one of the things that we were talking about kind of before when we were planning out the show was chatting about kind of the different way that we've seen customers handle different kinds of reservations. I would say for a compute savings plan perspective at this point, usually I see folks either buying them in a shell account that's just used for that savings plan ownership or the payer. With the RIs, either I do see folks still kind of managing an RI fleet for these other services centrally, but I would say that that's usually a little bit more common to purchase in the linked accounts. Does that match with what you guys are seeing as well?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for folks that are like, maybe I'm getting ahead of a question that someone would ask in chat, but like if you're not using something in a specific account, we will float it elsewhere, wherever it could go. So unless you don't have that usage anywhere in your entire bill, then it'll go somewhere. And if it doesn't, then you'll see a special use type, right? Special usage type within your billing info.
Yep, exactly. Sharing is on by default. So as long as you are an account that is part of an AWS organization, if we can't use it in your account, we'll look everywhere else unless your admins have explicitly turned that off. There are some use cases where turning it off makes sense if you like really want to make sure that a specific fleet of RIs that you've purchased for one account stays with that account, maybe. But usually I see folks turning that sharing on because it does make sure that you get the most bang for your buck and kind of lets you share those benefits across the org if applicable too. Is there any other use case that you've seen recently where you've had folks like turn the sharing off? Either of you?
Only by mistake. So you get until the end of the month to correct it.
Yep. Definitely worth a check there. Also, that's why we want folks looking at those utilization and coverage reports so that you don't get a surprise.
Exactly.
Yep. Cool. Well, that kind of leads into some of the cost data questions that I think we'll be answering with the workshop and some of the data that I've pulled quickly. Before I pull up the spreadsheet, any last questions about what you can find in console or kind of common snags that you've seen people hit with the purchasing or like scoping process?
I think that's a no from Zamora.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything regarding like the initial process, but no, I think that the questions more come like as they start, monitoring how they're utilizing it and how they're using it across the org. So
just don't confuse the different Linux flavors, please. That's my one shout out. But so I want to kind of draw a dividing line here, Savanna. So we've been talking a lot about how to make a purchase, how do you know it's the right purchase, what to do. And then now we're going on the other side of the table, which is you've made a purchase.
You've made it.
And then what does that look like? How do you analyze it? So we're flipping personas potentially.
Yeah,
totally. So let's pretend you made a purchase last month. You've received a bill and now you're looking at your cost data and you're taking a look at these things and how they're showing up in the bill. I do have some cost and usage report data pulled that I do want to kind of quickly show you guys to give a feel for how these data structures differ between the two offerings. I'll try to keep it quick and light, and I've used some colors so it's not just like spreadsheet, Olympics, eye test.
I have a question. Oh, go
ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, comment, right? I don't know if you want, I think you might delve into this question as you're going now, but I'll bring it up. A Fuego says, can you please clarify how savings plans or reserve instances apply across accounts? My understanding is that if the purchase is made at the AWS organization level, it could be applied in different linked accounts. However, if the purchase is made by an individual account, it only applies to that account. Could you confirm if this is correct?
Yes. So this deals with the sharing question that we were talking through earlier. And the direct answer to the question kind of depends a little bit on your organization sharing settings. So the thing that I always keep in mind is any of these purchases that you can make, any of these products, it's always going to have a priority for the account that it lives in. So if you purchase it in your linked account gets first pick. If sharing is on, your linked account will still get first pick, And then if there's any left over, it'll look elsewhere. If sharing is turned off, your linked account will get first pick. And if it's not completely utilized, you're still going to be paying for it. It'll just be underutilized. From the organization perspective, if folks are either purchasing this in like the management account or in a shell account that's just there to manage that RI and savings plan fleet, we always want sharing to be on because we need that to be sharing throughout the organization. And the savings plans are going to apply to the usage that's going to save the most money first. So that's that like discount percentage stack that we talked about. And RIs are going to apply to matching usage based on essentially the order that it was metered during the month.
So I hope that answers your question, Afuego. This stuff can be super simple. And then the more you ask the questions, the more you realize how deep it really goes.
Yep. That is a really good segue, though, and I will pull up some of the data structure so we can start talking through it, because I think the number one question that we get asked as people who are working directly with AWS customers in AWS support are questions exactly like that. So like, where did this purchase actually go? Who's using it? Why is there underutilization? Can we get a feel for who's using what and where these things are going? So to hopefully answer this a little bit, we'll go into just a quick talk through of how these show up in the cost and usage report. And then we will move into some of the tools that of AWS support generally has built to make that a little bit easier to consume. But I think it does help to kind of have a look at it directly. So right now I've got an RDS reserved instance pulled up, and essentially I've got two flavors of usage, two lines in the CUR. CUR refers to the AWS cost and usage report, which is our most granular billing artifact. I have turned all of my rows into columns here, so it's a little bit easier to read. I've also pruned through a lot of this data, so it is very short and enough to be shared on screen at once. But essentially, when you purchase an RI, you're going to get a line every month for each RI lease. That is the RI fee line, which is kind of what you can see in column B here. And that tells you everything about the lease itself. So how much does this RI cost? What kind of RI is it? Where does it live? Which account does it live in? You can see right here that my usage account is this like 123 account. And it's the same as the payer account. So right away, I know that I've purchased this RI at the payer level. And if we look at the usage start date and end date, it's the entire month of July. So this guy's sitting in the payer account and he's looking for places to apply throughout your billing family. He wants to apply that coupon to anything that you're running. The data about where it is being consumed lives in discounted usage lines, like column C right here. So again, that is the line item type of discounted usage. And this is where I'm going to find all of my information about the instance, in this case, a database instance, that the RI is applying to. So if I want to look for a specific tag that's on that instance, if I want to understand where that instance sits and see any of that metadata, that's going to be in the discounted usage line. I'll do a quick look at the costs here. You can see with my unblended cost for the RI fee line, I've got essentially the purchase price of that reserved instance. And with the discounted usage line, I see zeros because we're not paying for that instance directly. It's being covered by the RI. So the coupon is applying as expected. That's great news. Questions on any of this so far?
No, I would just say for folks that what we're showing right here, this is an hourly view. So in any given hour, this might change.
Yep.
So this is the most granular level that you can get.
The other thing that I do want to call out too is this RI is a R5 large, and it is covering a portion of an R5 2X large.
That's a good point out.
Yep, because these line item descriptions that show essentially that engine that I'm looking at match here, and I'm looking at like a size flexible offering, right? So that partial RI is going to cover some of that usage that's a little bit bigger. That can work in reverse too. So if I had a 2XL reservation, it could cover 2 larges, but that is the size flexibility that we talked about before. Definitely check based on essentially what you're purchasing and what that purchase option is, whether or not that's going to be applicable for you. But we do have it in a couple of our offerings. And then, as you can see, we've got all that metadata that I talked about. We've got anything that you could ever want to know about that lovely DB instance that's being covered. And we will scroll down here a little bit to get to kind of the exciting part, which is our reservation ARN. So this is the record for that RI. And you can see that we both have it on that RI fee line and on my discounted usage lines. So any of the visualization engines, any of the queries that you can run that will tell you about essentially like where this RI is applying are using this reservation ARN field to join that usage with the RI that it is kind of married to in this particular hour, and getting that coupon benefit from. You'll also see that we've got something called reservation effective cost here. And this guy does have a value. That tells you essentially post coupon how much that instance costs to run after the discounts, and essentially after that application benefit that you're getting from that commitment-based discount that you purchased. So, questions on any of that?
So where was the 0 one?
It is up at the top, on blended cost and blended cost. Yep.
So folks should know that there's 2 different lines here. There's what you're paying for that hour, which is 0.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the actual rate at which you paid, which is the actual dollar that we care about.
Yep. Which is essentially like, after all is said and done, how much effectively did you pay for this instance? I will say too, just to make it a little bit spicier still, this is a partial upfront that I'm looking at. The effective rate takes into account essentially the portion of that upfront payment that would have been applied to that particular hour. These could get a little bit simpler if you're using no upfronts, or a little bit more complex if you're using a partial upfront or an all upfront option, because we take that like amortized upfront cost and factor that into the effective rate. So if you're really just looking for the simplest way to understand what's going on, I will always say, look at that effective cost and effective rate line to get started. That is where AWS is doing all the hard work behind the scenes for you. Done? All right. So let me quickly walk through compute savings plan data as well.
You gotta wait, I just want to call out, you got a pretty cool from JW01. So we were talking about how interesting would this be if we showed a bunch of spreadsheets, and it seems like some people like it.
I'm glad it's not just me that nerds out over this, because I cannot count how many hours of my life I've spent to get through this stuff.
Especially when you get like really, really good at it, and then you just filter by like specifically what you're looking for.
Yep. Or at this point, like I've had so many customers be like, we want a charge out model that does exactly this. And I'm like that meme where like all the numbers are floating and I'm like, okay, I know exactly what to do. It's just, anyway, it's very normal and cool of us. Anyway, I'll do like a really quick tour of the savings plan data. We'll keep it a little short, and then we'll go into some of the like hands-on workshop stuff that we've made to make it easier for folks. With savings plans, you essentially get 3 different line item types. So you get the recurring fee. This is very similar to that RI fee line item. It essentially just tells you what is happening with that savings plan lease on kind of a monthly basis. The big difference is that instead of that being a single fee line for the entire month, we get 1 per hour. This is great because it allows us to tie that essentially recurring or upfront amortized payment for the savings plan directly to the usage at a more granular kind of look. And if you've ever been in Cost Explorer and essentially looked at a not amortized view and you had upfront or recurring RIs, you usually get that kind of big spike for the RI on the first day of the month, and then everything is a little bit more even for the rest of the month. Savings plans, we tie that recurring payment to each hour, so it's a little bit smoother. If you do run RIs with a recurring payment, just swap to one of those amortized using Cost Explorer and you're good to go. But that's just a little piece of, I guess, AWS billing trivia for everybody today.
We have a lot of trivia in this episode. A lot of trivia. For sure.
The lore. You'll also get a covered usage line and a negation line. So covered usage is exactly what it sounds like. It is what that savings plan is covered or covering. And savings plan negation is essentially what is tying that out. So instead of an RI where we just showed those zeros, you'll see essentially the public price equivalent in the covered usage, and you'll see the negative version in the negation, which will tie out and essentially go to zero, but it gives you a little bit more line of sight into what's being covered in some of these views. As with before, if we scroll down here, we do have this source of truth savings plan ARN field that you can kind of join on to match these two together. That's how we can see what's consuming which savings plan, if you've got a big fleet of these things, or if you've kind of purchased in a lot of steps as you've tapered up through a migration. And similarly, we've got this effective cost column again. So we'll see that that is essentially a zero here because that's just my savings plan metadata. It'll be a zero here because that's just my negation, and you will see the value of kind of what this instance costs when everything was said and done right in the middle in that covered usage line. Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So is that a lot to handle? Maybe.
I don't know. The audience is saying savings details are always welcome.
Amazing. We love it. We have a couple kind of things that we can provide our viewers today to make some of this stuff a little bit easier as they are going through this journey. Zamara, I'll pass to you first because I know you've got kind of something that answers the direct question that we get, which is where did each one of these savings plans get consumed?
Yeah.
Yes, let me switch to your screen, Zamara.
Okay.
Which good. Is I'm going to do a quick little wipe again. So
okay.
Let's do this. I didn't do this quick enough. And great. We're back. Perfect. It worked perfectly.
Yes. And going back to what we were discussing a few minutes ago, right? Some of us enjoy going through the information spreadsheet style, and we're perfectly comfortable deep diving into
Some of us enjoy.
Spreadsheet Olympics, all right? I'm trying to qualify for 2028.
Oh, wait, yeah, that would be so cool. I would come to Vegas to support you.
There you go. But then there is also, I like both worlds. I also like to have a direct, more friendly, I guess, UI view of how everything is being distributed, especially with those questions that came up of okay, if I pay it at the payer level, if I buy it at the payer level, and then I want to see how my compute savings plans are being consumed throughout my organization. You all must be familiar with Amazon QuickSight and how we can actually use it to visualize this current data as well. We have done some deep dive episodes into doing this and deploying these dashboards, but for the purpose of today's topic, essentially the exact same data that we were just viewing in a spreadsheet style, you can actually view it in a more friendly dashboard style, where you see here, and this is all sample data as well. You see the savings owner pretty much being the account at which it was bought. Then the savings consumer would be all those linked accounts that are taking advantage of this specific reservation or compute savings plan. Then the product that was consumed, and then what's the savings type, and then as well as it will give you the dollar amount of what it was consumed at that linked account level. So I think that this is also gives you that pretty good deep dive into exactly where it is going and how those discounts are applied, not only at the buyer level, but also the ones that are consuming it.
Exactly. Awesome.
Well, that's what I wanted to show you guys.
Awesome.
Wait, scroll up to some of the pretty charts first.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. So this is the Kudos dashboard. And this is pretty much, let's say, at an organization level data. We have the different tabs. I'm specifically in the RISP summary, and this obviously looks up at the month before and how your discounts applied and the different reservations that you have. Gives you
that was it. I just
net
wanted to make sure that
savings.
people didn't think there was
Okay.
just more spreadsheets.
Oh, okay.
We got graphs too.
We have
we got
in
graphs
pretty
too.
colors.
Yeah, that's all we need.
Yes. Okay, cool.
And then we got about a little less than 5 minutes left. Well, time flies. And
yes, this is in quick site.
Thing?
Yes. This is the Kudos dashboard.
All right, let me flip back to you, Savanna, because I know you wanted to talk about the workshop.
Yep.
Boom. Not as smooth as the transition, but we're running out of time here.
We'll take it. And what we've done pretty recently, and we launched this a little bit earlier in the year, is we kind of wanted to make a hands-on workshop that customers could use as they think through how to build a cost allocation strategy. As we've seen, like, there are a lot of different ways that you can purchase these things. Could be in the payer account, could be in a linked account, could be a mix of both. And depending on where you are in that AWS journey, you might have different goals for how you spread this cost allocation. And as we saw via the Cur data, there is some complexity to it, right? Like, there are some things to think through. So what this workshop does is it is a completely start from zero all the way up to completed walkthrough of how you can build a cost allocation strategy for these savings products, how you can make sure that everybody who's purchasing these things and who's consuming them is getting a fair, equitable slice of that savings. And it walks through a lot of the business questions that you'll have to think about when you're thinking about how to structure this thing too. So we'll kind of walk through a quick graph. This is an example Cost Explorer screenshot of essentially a customer example where they went from purchasing a savings plan and RIs only in the payer account and one linked account, and have moved to a decentralized strategy where every linked account purchases their own. So this is kind of the two different flavors that you can have. Realistically, we see folks kind of mix and do a little bit of both here, but because of where those RI fee lines end up and essentially how those are charged, we want to make sure that folks have the tools that they need to think through, okay, do we want to charge this out on a consumption basis? Do we want to make sure that specific accounts get a different margin? Do we want to pull out all the discounts and spread it equally across everybody? And then depending on what the answer to those questions are, how do we actually do that, right? I think we're all pretty familiar at this point with writing SQL code for this stuff. I'm not going to assume that anybody who's starting their AWS journey has the skills out of the box to do that, and that is what this workshop is here to help you do. We walk through essentially the two most common pieces that we see, which is consumption-based, so who actually used each commitment here, and proportional distribution based on spend. Lots of words. Let me skip to one of these guys. But as you can see, we've got some hands-on videos that show you exactly how to use these queries, how to alter them, and make sure that you're kind of plugging in your own account information and enlightening them with all of the nuances of your business. And we've got a kind of look at what that output is going to look like for you and the queries themselves as well. So if you want to kind of blend that discount across the entire billing family, so if you're managing those commitments centrally yourself and you're not getting any kind of input from some of the engineering teams, that might be the best way forward. Or if you just want to do a straight consumption model, we've got kind of a look at that as well. We'll put the link in the chat. Please take
It's already there. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Matt, you're so on it. Thank you. And I think we're almost to time, so I will stop talking.
Yeah. So as you can see, we can talk a lot about this topic, and by we, I mean Savanna, but we love having you on. And also, there's just so much density to it. And this is what this workshop, I wish we had more time to talk more about it. But before we go, I just have one final plug, which is normally we end the show to say, hey, come tune in next week but I actually have a different call to action for folks, which is that I was just looking at this. Sorry. The Keys to AWS Optimization Show, which Savanna co-hosts. That's this Thursday. So I will be on there. So if you want to catch more on this type of topic, we're talking a lot about savings plan analysis. Now we're going to talk a bit more about pricing and the new pricing calculator features and tools. Come check us out. I'll put this in the chat as well for as long as it lives for the next 20 seconds. But yeah, come say hi. Come ask more savings plans questions out there. And I'll see you Thursday, and then we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you, everyone.